So tell me, what do you feel when you hear this? Or this? What about this? And that? This? That? And this? That? This? That? This? That? This? Alright, let me take a guess here. Did you feel a little warm sensation in your heart and or arteries? Felt more happy, comfortable, a little more joyous? Feeling like you got teleported somewhere? Anyone feel confused or a little lost? Because if you did, you might actually be a fetus. I'm gonna need y'all to hop back in the womb because you're making me feel old as hell right now. You were not the target for this test. My apologies. Barring confusion, if you felt any one or combination of those mentioned things like I was, you are probably experiencing the phenomenon known as nostalgia. Nostalgia is basically defined as affection for the past, usually for a specific place, period, or thing that holds some personal association to you. I remember exactly where I was when I first opened up Pokemon Soul Silver and saw Lugia speeding across the sea floor. I remember who was around watching my older brother hit level 2 game breakers and hand out ass whoopings on the Uptown Court in NBA Street Volume 2. I remember what I was wearing when I got my first nuke in Modern Warfare 2. It was just my boxers and I was putting in that work, I'll have you know. And through all those things, I remember how those moments then make me feel now. Warm, in awe, happy, and very much missing simpler times with the games that got close to my heart as I grew up. It's transportation to places I know for certain are good. Places that have been vetted as safe, comfy, and easy to embrace because I've been there before. It's a vehicle back to what you hold most dear. For me, that's how I see nostalgia. And I don't know if it's just me, but lately, it feels like nostalgia in the past is, well, overwhelmingly present. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand nostalgia has existed in media and life for a very long time, but I just can't shake how much we are seeing everything nostalgic pushed everywhere all at once. Show IPs from the past are getting dug up from their graves and put into Walmart commercials and full-blown reboots or live-action adaptations en masse. Old kids TV show actors are making podcasts about how much dome they gave to castmates at record rates. Please stop, y'all are killing what's left of my childhood innocence, have mercy. And video games just can't seem to shy away from rehashing the same shit with minimal upgrades and new packaging on the wrapper. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty and Last of Us, stay right there. The situation is getting more and more critical, and nostalgia has become one of the biggest dangers to the future of media, especially video games, as we know it. Nostalgia is rampant. I see it, you see it, we all see it. But what at the core makes it such a driving force in the gaming space and beyond? Well, there's three things that combine to make nostalgia so powerful and heavily used today. First thing, which should be pretty straightforward, nostalgia is familiar. Gaming is still pretty young compared to other media, like some good years younger than my grandparents young. So as gaming matured and expanded into its modern state, the majority of gamers playing today grew with the space and created bonds to a lot of what gaming did over the past 2 generations. And this isn't just me talking out of my ass. Allow me to put on my Bill Nye coat and get sciencey real quick to explain this to all y'all, so just stick with me. There's this graph called a lifespan retrieval curve that plots out how many memories we're solidifying in our own brains across our life. The entire curve is separated into 3 parts, with the most important part being the middle one, aka the reminiscence bump. That's the stage of life roughly between the ages of 10 and 30 where making memories happens the most, where older age groups go back to the most, and where Google is telling people they need to buy extra storage the most. Hold my nuts, Google, I'm not paying the $5 for that, man. To keep it simple, gamers 18 and above aged with the explosion of modern gaming in the past few decades and now have enough distance between older eras to attach nostalgia to them and be familiar with virtually everything from gaming's past. Well, at least everything since Pac-Man. I don't know who's still in this world that is exclusively on the hunt for another Tennis for 2 game or something like that. And the familiarity we built as gaming grew with us brings a higher chance for us to engage with existing IPs. Whether that be defending a game you love from the hellhounds and Twitter comment sections, or buying dog collars designed after specific game franchises for your dogs, right? Nostalgia is familiar, and human nature usually points to sticking to what we know. Second thing, nostalgia is very alluring. For the most part, nostalgia registers on the positive side of the emotional spectrum. At worst, it'll have some regret or bittersweetness linked to the memory itself, but overall, it's mostly good feelings filling that space in our minds. So many of us see these memories and call them the good old days or simpler times. Unforgettable moments during your formative years, your first time opening a game menu, your first time seeing a crazy moment happen within a game, experiences that were so damn good to you the first time around that you'd actively seek out anything built as an extension or follow-up to that experience from your past. The best way to visualize it in my head is like those old ass cartoons where someone smells a pie sitting nearby and just starts floating in the direction of the scent. Nostalgia is that attractive to us. What's even more powerful is realizing that alluring nature hits 100 times Kaioken because video games are shared experiences now more than ever. Whether it was forming friendships in online multiplayer games or talking about standout moments from single-player stories of the past online, gamers are levitating from smelling the same pies at the biggest rate in history. On top of stirring positive feelings within a person, nostalgia hits even harder as it affects people around you from a social perspective. Case in point, Fortnite OG. As soon as I heard that Epic Games were bringing back the original locations like Tilted Towers and Pleasant Park, I tapped into the Speed Force heading to my group chats and the Twitter timeline because I was so excited. My friends were just as excited in sharing their old routine, go-to guns, and when they wanted to squad up. And that's nostalgia and social interaction moving like Prime Shaq and Kobe in a nutshell. Just think of the millions of people that squatted up in 2017, 2018 that lost their mind and immediately planned to get the band back together to play what they remembered was a great time in the early days of Fortnite. Matter of fact, don't even think, because Fortnite literally told us they broke all-time player count records by having 44 million people on in one day. A nostalgic product coming from a franchise many are familiar with isn't just going to strike a chord internally, it'll generate a buzz all around and even create a FOMO, or fear of missing out, factor for a lot of people, and makes nostalgia that much more alluring than it was in isolation. Now lastly, and probably the most important thing here, it's profitable for the businesses, baby. It's all about that bag for the companies, man. Businesses in the gaming industry, and all across media for that matter at this point, are looking for money that is A, as close to guaranteed as possible, and B, as fast as possible. Especially at the AAA level, companies are becoming increasingly accommodating to what gamers already know to hedge their bets on consumers buying into the content. So when you look at the bigger picture here, nostalgia has totally covered gaming because it's familiar, alluring, and profitable. And when you let all that come together, it'll form an easy acronym to remember in You know what, in hindsight, I probably should have changed the order of the letters. Scratch the acronym, y'all. Nostalgia has stormed gaming more than we've ever seen before, and its vice grip on the space only tightens further by the day. But some folks may think it's honestly all cool we got more of our favorites across the past few years. Without the prevalence of nostalgia today, we wouldn't have the chance to see this, and this, and that, and this, and that, and this, and that, and this, and this, that, this. But this is creating a big problem.
The mother of all fighting games just arrived on PlayStation 2.
We would like to play.
And might agree on my own time.
We've all been slow dancing with nostalgia for some time now, getting all lost in its eyes and embracing the warm and fuzzy sensation we're damn near guaranteed to feel. But just beyond our vision, that same dance partner shifts its form to become something a lot less warm and fuzzy for us. A crutch. Nostalgia has become a crutch that is hindering how much creativity and progression we're actually getting in the space, and the popular trend is leaning more and more on the former at the expense of the latter. Being inundated with nostalgia for that familiar dopamine hit has come with some seriously dangerous byproducts that we're either feeling right now or will feel down the line. Looking at the nature of gaming and other media forms in general, I think it's fair to say, for one, there is less room for fresh because of nostalgia. I feel like there's this growing over-reliance to stay within and attached to what already exists instead of creating from an empty canvas or foreign concept. Too many major releases are tying themselves to existing IP just for the sake of it. Outlaws could have just as easily been billed as a space exploration narrative RPG without the Star Wars labeling. Hogwarts Legacy could have been a Magic game with a whole different set of world building outside of that Harry Potter attachment. Hell, we've got fighting games that people won't even touch unless it has an umpteenth number that follows a Street Fighter or Tekken name. And because nostalgia is fapping all over the current landscape, consumers hold their support mostly for what they know. Traditional media favors the familiar and puts higher levels of scrutiny on anything new, and we all get pushed into the same rivers and streams that we're used to.
Is that accidental, or were you trying to quote TLC on purpose?
I don't even understand the reference.
Unless we're getting fed from the lifeblood of the industry and indie studios, we're going to see more new games have less room to stand on, and a much tighter leash to what we've already seen before. You want to know what else nostalgia is hurting by being used so heavily? Nostalgia. Honestly, feeling this was the motivation for me even writing and putting this video together. Nostalgia is hitting a period of diminishing returns because of its overuse. Ergo, it's not hitting the same, man. How can I be nostalgic and reminiscent about anything if everything is trying to throw me in a damn time machine? It's getting tiring. Add to that, there are cases where nostalgia is trying to be applied to stuff that isn't even fully nostalgic yet, at least from my own jaded view. Listen, y'all, I get COVID lockdowns are warping our concept of time, but the cycles of some things getting the nostalgia tag on it are getting shorter and shorter. The Last of Us Part 2 came out in 2020, and only 3.5 years later, it's getting a full-blown remaster. It didn't even make it through a presidential term before Naughty Dog started calling it a throwback and did some touch-ups on the same joints from back then. My fear is that companies will continue to see short-term successes and things like that, start recycling titles sooner across the board, and pick the nostalgia fruit way before they're ripe enough to really enjoy. Lastly, and I think most importantly, nostalgia is feeding into less risky development, which is creating less incentive to innovate and branch out beyond what exists. Let me ask you this. If companies generally get more assured profit from nostalgia, and gamers are eating up the nostalgia that's hitting their brainstems at virtually every pitch, why would anyone want to change up the formula? More and more, things that are completely new and innovative generally aren't getting their just due. Outside of breakout anomalies like It Takes Two, it's an uphill battle for something fresh to stand out and be supported amongst the sea of familiarity. And to top it all off, the tendency to promote the old over the new is becoming a serious habit, and that sets a really grim precedent that we're already seeing some wild examples of. Call of Duty really just said F anything that's new and dropped a full price title with maps from over 13 years ago and a couple of Modern Warfare 2019 Lucy's. Literally everything in what we've seen from Modern Warfare 3 thus far is a testament to sacrificing innovation to secure a sale with nostalgia. From the lack of effort in the campaign all the way down to doubling back on movement mechanics to restore the feeling. But they're still going to carry that mentality into the next Call of Duty game anyways. Might want to keep your eyes peeled, that might be a video coming soon. The parent company of publisher 505 Games actually laid off nearly a third of their workforce with the reasoning that gamers prefer sequels and remakes to brand new titles, so they're making sequels and remakes top priority. 30% of their staff gone, just like that. So they can turn their attention to making sure stuff like Human Fall Flat and Hawken have their groundbreaking, earth-shattering sequels locked in the chamber. Like, give me a break for real, man. I don't want to get too out of pocket, but it's gotten so bad we can't even get new takes or spins on anything without backlash. Like, not even a little shift for something new. Don't believe me? Take Spider-Man 2 for instance. Venom was one of the main ops in the game, and in the story, Insomniac changed one little characteristic about the symbiote. They made him resistant to fire, which runs pretty opposite of other iterations having Venom be weak to fire. They set the precedent earlier in the story so it would have explanation in their world, but you know what happened as soon as the internet saw Venom walking through fire? All the dweebs crawled to their Cheeto-covered keyboards and voiced their anger at changing something so minor in the story, spitting all over themselves saying, "This isn't canon, this is a travesty to all we know about the symbiote," and it's so annoying. If there's that much opposition and aversion to new twists, even in what people already know, I fear for how completely new things will even survive in this era of being hooked to the nostalgia IV. If we keep falling prey to all of this, that, how will we even fully move forward? Nostalgia is a double-edged sword. As much as it is the comforting force that teleports many of us to simpler times, it's also the blinder that is clouding our vision and hindering us from seeing what's ahead. And when I say what's ahead, I mean the next level, the next frontier of gaming experiences, the next wave of transformational worlds and paradigm-shifting projects that expand what greatness means for gaming, beyond the fences of what we've already seen. Funnily enough, some of those projects may be in the works and even in the wild right now, but it's more likely we're not going to see them or give them the proper dues because so many of us are mired in the past. Listen, I know I've been critical of its impacts recently, but let me make one thing clear. I do not want anyone to completely abandon nostalgia. There's not a single rational soul walking the earth today that would want any nostalgic presence Thanos snapped out of their lives. There are a lot of cases where nostalgia is mixed in with healthy amounts of new elements to move what was known to levels we didn't think they could reach. God of War 2018, Alan Wake 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, the Doom reboot, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Spec Ops: The Line, yes, that technically was a reboot. All great examples of bringing back and building on nostalgia. And there are about 8 times as many franchises and IPs that have very valid cases to use the old nostalgia play and come back in some form. On an unrelated side note, I will personally rally all of my worldly possessions for that next Mass Effect Perfect Dark reboot and a Gotham City Imposters revival. Somebody please help me right now. See how easy it is to get carried away with nostalgia? That is exactly why we can't let it go unchecked and accept just anything we get served because we're fond of how things were before. I'll be honest, it won't be easy. We're fighting against human nature and capitalism. This is the Godskin duo in real life ready to put us in a deep fryer. But as difficult as it may seem, there's something we can all do as gamers to start changing the tide on this that's 2 words long. Embrace new. Get uncomfortable. Take a chance in trying something you haven't touched before. It could be a new way to play, a new game anywhere from indie to AAA blockbuster. Hell, a new genre you've never thought of venturing into before. The more we try something fresh and support something fresh, the more chances we get of fresh things being pushed to the top. It's tough, and it's something that won't happen overnight, but it's worth the risk, y'all. Because nostalgia may take you back, but being brave in something new will push you forward to experiences you couldn't imagine before. Thanks for watching.